already we know it. So, and you have already identified the problems in the business organization. So that is your research project. And then the recognize the sources of the research problem. That part also I hope you have some idea regarding that one. So then the step of formulating regarding the research problem, how we can how we can formulate the research problem, how we can start the research problem. Likewise, so then accordingly, research gaps, how we can take the research gaps to identify the research problem or else to develop the research problem based on the gaps, how we can develop the research problem, and then develop problem statement clearly, and then we have to identify the questions plus objectives. So that is those are the intended learning objectives throughout this lecture. Right. The thing, am I recording this session? Okay. Recording is done by this 41.
Yes, I have switched on the recording, madam.
Okay. Right. So that means you have the research recording now. Do I need to record? From my
Sorry?
end, is it going to be record?
Anyway, madam, it will get saved in the there's a
Chat,
folder. Yeah,
okay, right, okay. Teams chat, it will be appeared there. If it is so, it's okay. Right. Thank you very much. All right. So these are the learning outcomes. So what we are going to discuss. Yes. So the thing is, actually, without action, right? Before moving to the problem statement, we need to get to know that research is always action. Without actions, we can't find or else we can't formulate a research, right? Without having the actions, we can't go for the research. What do you mean by that one? Action is the needed thing always when it's come to the research. Yes, how that is linked with our research problem. Anyone else? Any idea? Yes? Without actions, there are no researchers. Yes. Any idea? Yes, warmly welcome your answers. Any idea, please? Without action, we don't have research. Uh-huh. No idea. Yes. So doing a research in the sense, how many steps are there basically? Last week, so what is the subject or is what is the area that you have discussed in the research project? Can I kindly know the subject or is area that you have discussed last week regarding the research project? Before the last week, I have done the literature review. Last week, so what was the subject? What was the topic that you have discussed? Yes?
Last week, madam, we have finalized the topics, that is research topics.
Research topic. Okay, tell
Yes.
me your research topic. Your one.
My one.
Yeah.
I cannot remember. It's effectiveness of working capital management.
Effectiveness of working
For the
capital
profitability of
management.
the business.
Sorry, effectiveness of the working capital
For the
management.
management, for the profitability of the business.
to the profitability of the business.
Yes.
Right. Okay. You all finalize the research topics or else project topics.
Yes, madam. I think all the like all
How many
the
students there here?
the thing is, madam, there are some students who cannot participate because students who are joining from Gulf countries, today is working for
Hmm.
work day for them. Therefore, they are unable to join for
Work,
the live
join here.
sessions. Yes,
Approximately 29, 35 students are there for the research project.
I think so, madam, because there are uh, some students move to package date base. Initially, there were like I think 30 to 40, but I think majority of those students are moved to package based data
Based in
subject. I think there are less numbers. I think nearly 20. Not sure.
now.
I think so, but not sure. Madam, I don't have
Okay,
numbers with me.
good. Right. Is this difficult?
No, I don't know how. I'm not sure, madam. What was
What was the
their
problem?
intention? Yes.
Okay. කට්ටිය හිතුවා මේක නිකන්
Because there are
ලේසියට.
some, I think they have some confusion, madam. Because initially they communicated was there will be no lectures like
Right, no? So
weekly
they just
and
think,
like
okay, what we need to do is, yes, we have the research report, we just submit the project, and so that is it, right? So, but
yes,
later on, that has been complicated. No, it started with the lectures, the participation is compulsory,
yes,
and then you have the progress report also. Then it's be going to be complex, and then they have moved to the another subject package base. Is that the
yes,
process, or
and the
yeah?
volume of the report there's about 11,000 or 10,000 number of word count, and
Ah,
I
yes,
think there was many
yes, more
reasons, but
than
not sure.
10,000.
Okay.
I hope more than 10,000 for the project. For the research, it's 15,000 words. That means near little bit similar to the dissertation. So that is why I
Hmm.
hope the students going to left the project. Right. So that is, yes. Okay, we'll stop that discussion there. Yes, back to the lesson. So the thing is, always how many steps there when we are doing a project, even when we are doing a dissertation, actually the process majorly, so we have to do the introduction part, right? So within the introduction part, what we need to do is you need to identify the background of the study, right? Background of the study. Once you have identified this background of the study, so then you need to move to the development of the problem. So why I am doing this? So what is the problem I have to do this kind of research in that area? Research problem, right? So within the again the introduction part, you divide this problem into the several segments, and then we can call it as questions. With the questions we develop the objectives. That is the main part or as the first part of the your project or else the dissertation introduction part. Second part, not actually it's not the second part, literature review in the sense throughout this introduction, the methodology as well as discussion, data analysis, we need the literature review. But we write it as a second step. What do you mean by the literature review? So we have to identify the similar studies to our studies, right? Similar studies to our study. Accordingly, we have to identify. So, what are the previous scholars? What they think about? What the previous scholars think about this kind of research? What is their research? So, how they have done their research? So, with kind of objectives and likewise. So, then that is called as a literature review. So once you did the literature review with the introduction part, so then we can go to the deciding of the methodology. So how we can do this? So I have already identified the problem. So now I have the objectives, I have an aim. So then I have studied about the previous studies also. Now we have to start the analysis as well as the data collection process. Before moving to that one, we need to do what? We need to identify how we can do this, how we can continue this our project further. Accordingly, we have to identify our research philosophies, our dependent variables, our independent variables, and then unit of analysis, what is our population. So what is the choice of research? Is it quantitative way? Is it qualitative way? Is it going with the which kind of approach? Is it deductive approach? Are we going to develop a research theory, or else are we going to develop, are we going to test about the existing theories? And what kind of strategy that we have to use to collect the data? Is it survey? Is it experiment? Is it other hand case study? Likewise, so what kind of time period we are doing our research, time horizon, sampling technique, sample size, and data analysis technique. So you need to initially have a structure of these items which have been included in our methodology. Right. Okay, now the test step is done. Methodology completed. Now we know. So this is the way we need to do our research. Now then the second step, collecting the data. You need to collect the data. If it is secondary data, you have to refer the annual reports, and you have to go through the several annual reports, download the annual report, extract it to the Excel sheet, and you have to prepare the data sheet. If it is a primary data, you have to share the questionnaire, start develop the questionnaire, and do the pilot test. And if there are some amendments in the pilot test, you have to do the again corrections and again share the questionnaire to the audience and take the response. Have to calculate the response rate, and likewise, you collected the data. Again, action, right? So action. Then once you collected the data, what you need to do? You need to analyze it with the software. It may be eViews, Smart PLS, SPSS, Stata, R, NVivo, whatever the software with your objectives, in line with your objectives, you need to do the analysis. It may be descriptive statistics, it may be the correlation, it may be the ANOVA, it may be the one-way ANOVA, it may be the Chiquia test, it may be the regression test, or else likewise you need to do your research, data analysis. Right, data analysis done. Right now, next step, you need to discuss what your research with the previous researchers' research. Right, so ABC has identified the working capital management and profitability as a positive relationship, but my research proves it's a negative relationship. Likewise, what you need to do as a next step, you need to discuss. Right, so your research with the previous scholars' research done. Then you need to make the conclusion, and with that you have to do the recommendations. You need to give some suggestions to the future researchers, future scholars, as well as the policy implementation, practical implementation for the managers, and what you have been contributed for the theories, and likewise recommendations. Right, within these all the steps, what you need to do is the action. Right, so therefore without actions there are no researchers. Right, there are no research without the actions. You have to always work with your project, right, step by step. Once we have done this lecture series, actually this is not a lecture. I feel this is not lecture because you have already identified these terms, technical terms, in the research methodology subjects. So there are some students who I have lectured for the 15 CD batch. So they all have the other hand, the Professor Achad also done this similar syllabus. That means you all have the idea regarding technical terms and conditions regarding this research methodology subject. So of this research methodology subject. So therefore, these are not actually lectures. What we are doing is we are helping you to develop your research project with the practical aspects. Therefore, if you have any questions regarding these lessons, if you have once I did the lectures regarding these problem questions and objectives, you ask me the question how we can develop our problems likewise, right? So therefore, so you always need regarding your project also, you always need to do some activity. Otherwise, you can't end this project. It may be a headache, right? So therefore, without action, there are no projects, there are no research. Start your works, right? Right. With that, we'll move to the research problem. Yes. Any idea regarding research problem? Yes. Problem. Do you have problems? How many students? No, I am having a question, right? So what it is? Let's count, right? So why there are less number of students? I'm questionable on that one. Let's see again. How many students? Yes, now 17. Right. That means as their batch coordinator is Gangodavi 41 නේද පුතා ඔයා? ගෝනාල
Yes, madam.
ගොඩ
Gonala good. Yes.
ගෝනල ගොඩ.
You
Right.
can call me Miss Gayan.
Gayan.
Yes.
It's very familiar to me. Okay, so then I can recall you. My husband's name also the Gayan. Right. Okay, Buddha. Right. Right. So I'm questionable on which one. So why the students are having less participation to the lecture? That is why I initially asked the question. I give you the 15 or 13 minutes to you. So then I looking at the participation. Still there are 14. Again it become the 15 and after 30 we came to the 13 minutes. It's become the 14th. So what it is? Problem. Right? So I'm questionable on something. Why? So why the students are having less participation for this lecture? That is why I asked from you. So is this the number? Right, so previously for the literature review, so there were approximately 27 in between 27 to 28. I know 16D plus 15 CD weekday weekend. So you all have the good participation, especially the 16D. So they have the online participation. So therefore, I was questionable. So why this? Why this is like that? The less participation. What it is, it's a practical thing for the problem, right? So I'm having a problem, right? Accordingly, give me the definition for the problem. So which kind of scenario we have to create a problem? We are suffering from a problem in which kind of scenario? In which kind of scenario we are suffering from a problem? We expect something, but actually that is not the real thing, right? The expectation is not happening always, right? So therefore we are having a problem, right? So in that scenario, actually is different from the expected level. Actual level is different and the expected level is different. Always we expected high, but the actual is low. Sometimes, so there may be cases even we expect less, there may be actual more, right? So it's like there may be some scenarios even not, but in some cases, normal thing is we have the actual is, so we see actual, but the expectation is high. In that scenario, what is there? The problem is there. Problem arises if the actual is not similar to the expected, right? Okay, the problem does not necessarily mean that something is seriously wrong with the current situation that need to be rectified immediately. So let's discuss about the problems in real world context Sri Lanka. What are the problems? Yes. Economic crisis is there. So inflation is there. What are those? Those are the real world problems, right? The production is low. Then what happened what happened now? The election is coming. So there are a lot of things happening around the world, around the Sri Lanka, and there are some price reductions, and so there are some concessions, concessionaries are given by the government, and likewise, what happened? Now the Sri Lankan economy is going to be a little bit changed. Why? because of the election. So what in that kind of scenario, some of the poor people may feel, okay, what happened? What is going to be happen? Likewise, problems, right? Not only the election, so there are some serious issues in the Sri Lankan context, problem also there. But when it's come to the research context, when it's come to the your project context, it's not seriously wrong with, right? There are no any severe damages, right? So, but there are some actually the problems or some situations maybe there where we are questionable even to be a problem, it not should be a seriously wrong with the current situation, right? So therefore, thus it's fruitful to identify the problem as any situation where the gap exists between actual and desired ideal state. So that is what I previously explained. In which kind of scenario you create a problem, what actual level is different with the desired level. There may be a gap, right? If the gap is there, what happen? The problem maybe arises. So if I tell it in Sinhala, I don't know, some students can understand that one. So the famous example, if there is a gap in the love, what happened? So there may be some issues, no? යක්කුරින්ගනවා කියන්නේ ආදරේ අතර gaps තිබ්බහම මොකද වෙන්නේ? ආදරේ හිදස් තිබ්බහම යක්කුරින්ගනවා. What it is? A gap, right? So we expect more love, but the actual thing is we are receiving, or else we feel okay, so they are treating me as like this, so we feel we are receiving a low level of love and care, affection. So then what it is? So the particular persons are finding what? Okay, so they are finding another option. Why? So they are feeling a gap, right? Otherwise, so in that scenario, what it is? A problem. When it's come to the real world context, let's take the working capital management, our practical example in the accounting terms. So as a company, as a researcher, or else as a finance manager, the working capital management process should be very smoothly going on. Otherwise, the finance manager can't manage the organizational operational activities if the working capital management practices are not going well, right? But that is the actual scenario the finance manager expect, right? So high level, but the actually what happened, working capital process, the payment of the cash, payment for the creditors, payment received from the debtors are very low level, right? And then the cash receipts are very low level. So we as a company, we are unable to pay the debts. We are unable to pay our creditors. What it is, that is the actual scenario. But from the beginning of the month, so we expect, okay, this will be a very good flow, no issues, no high cash flow receipts, and then we can easily pay for the creditors, and we may receive the high cash flow from the debtors, and that is the expectation. But what happened? Mid of the month, we as a finance manager, we feel so bad why the process is not going well. Right now, what happened? What's the problem is now the finance manager feel very uncomfortable, right? Why? So I expect this kind of scenario, but actually it is not a scenario. What happened? The problem is there. The gap is there with what it is. A actual level and ideal state is different, right? We come to the another example from the accounting perspective. Yes, another research topic. Give me the another research topic. We'll discuss with your research topics. So then it will be very easy to go ahead with your research topic also. Even I feel if I discuss my research topics and my experience, that would be not worthwhile to your end. Yes, Puta. Any other example, research topic? Yes, not research topic. Sorry, always I am repeating it as research topic, not the research, it's project. Yes. Students, yes. We will. Silva. 001. The Silva.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what is your problem? What is your research topic?
My topic is, madam, the impact of big data analytics capability on sustainability performance.
You are going to identify the big data
Big data analytics capability.
analytics capabilities
Yes.
and sustainable
Sustainability
reporting.
performance. Sustainability
Sustainability,
performance.
sustainability performance, right?
Yes.
So big data analysis techniques, we'll take it as a big data analysis techniques or else what it is, tools then. No,
Capability.
capabilities. Yes. What do you mean by big data?
That means a lot of data, and they are going to analyze it and using these information. I mean, using this data after they
Hmm.
analyze this data,
Hmm.
they arrive into information that will be useful for the business process.
All right. So then what do you mean by sustainability? Or else yeah, what is your research dependent variable? Sorry. Sustainability
Uh, yes, madam.
reporting.
Yes, sustainability performance. That means
Sustainable
you,
performance.
yeah, using this information, my selected company will be able to optimize their resources. I mean,
Hmm.
they can do their, I mean, waste reduction can be implemented, and
Huh.
some efficiency improvements, something like that.
All right, okay. Big data will take it as a big data capabilities and then the sustainability performance. Performance,
Yes.
no, not yes, performance, no?
I
Yes,
mean, if any
sustainable.
company invest in the big data analytics capability, can they,
Hmm.
will there be any relationship between big data analytics capability and the sustainable performance in the company? If they invest
Right.
it, they can arrive in the results of sustainable performance,
Yes.
something like that.
So in that sense, right. So we'll come to the research problem or your project problem, right? So what kind of things you did? You have been directed to do this kind of research. Yes. Any idea?
Uh,
What kind of factors?
Actually, madam, because these days, in the global context as well as the local context, businesses usually go very eco-friendly these days,
Very good,
and
right? Very good, right? Okay, we'll stop there. So
yeah,
that means you have questionable on which one? Your dependent variable, right? So you expect, so this may be the sustainable performance within these contexts. The organization companies are very friendly with the eco-friendly activities. So they are expecting that kind of eco-friendly activities accordingly. So even they expect there may be some so there may be some low level practices, low level sustainable performance there. Right, so that is what normally the your expectation. I hope you feel or else you observe the world as a world. So there are a lot of trending eco-friendly activities, but your selected organizations or industry, so they are having specific low level of sustainable performance. Within that context, low level of sustainable performance. So then what happened? So you are questionable on the sustainable performance levels. Expected is different from the actual. So then and then you have identified one of factor that is going to affect for your sustainable performance, or else there may be some link between their big data capabilities. So that is why you are going to identify the big data capabilities plus the sustainable performance to your research as this there are impact of these big data analysis capabilities with your sustainable performance. Likewise, so actually the thing is always when it's come to your research problem, you are questionable on which one. You are questionable or else there is a gap in actual plus ideal. So it actual plus desired in which kind of variable? In the dependent variable. Right, so that is what you need to always remember your memory. We call your memory. So what it is, you are always questionable on which one your dependent variable. Right, so the expected level of the dependent variable is not the actual level of your dependent variable. For example, sustainable performance, it may be the profitability, it may be the working capital management. Likewise, right? Okay. So if we have identified the research problem, or else if we have a problem in our context, so that is lead to which one for your investigation of your research or else project. Right. So here you have given some examples of the nature of the research problem, right? Example of the problems. So you can read this part later on. For example, I will take a one. Staff turnover is higher than the anticipated, right? So staff turnover, for example, MAs. We'll come to the project context, not the larger dissertation context. MAs, right? So what happened to the Sri Lankan economy apparel industry now? What happened now? Previously, it was a very good scenario. So there are a lot of garments were there. So now what happened? Lot of garments have been, what happened? Shifted to where? Shifted to where? Yes, shifted to another countries, Bangladesh likewise, Malay likewise, right? So for example, Hela, some of the Hela garments have been closed. So likewise, the garment or else the apparel industry in Sri Lanka is going to be collapse, right? Because of this economic scenario, economic situation, high salary payment and inflation of the Sri Lanka. Previously, they have used the garment factories in Sri Lankan context with the cause of the less payment for the labor, no? And material, less payment for the material, and likewise now it has been double. They are shifting, so the companies or as the government industries are going to be shifted from Sri Lankan into the another countries, right? Anyway, so with the this selected organizational MAs, right? So there are some students who are working on the MAs also, right? So then staff turnover is high. She is always reluctant to do. If I'm telling something regarding the MA, she is very reluctant to accept those things because she is working at MAs, right? So later on, I will I will identify the students. I will call the student. Anyway, staff turnover is high, right? So now as a HR manager, we are questionable. The manager is questionable. Okay, even I expect 10% staff turnover for the month of July. So the what happened? So the 50% is the staff turnover, right? So then, so the finance or else the account, the HR manager is questionable. Why this is like that? Right? So why the staff turnover is high as we have already identified, as we expect, right? It was identified as 10, but the actual is 50. What are the scenario? Now he is questionable, he or she is questionable. What are the reason for this high staff turnover? So then what we need to do? The research team of the MS should need to do a research. Why? Right? So that kind of scenarios, that kind of real world context problems should be elaborate in your research project. Otherwise, that will be not a project. It will becomes a research dissertation. Now, so the simply things, right? Staff turnover is high. What are the reasons? So because why? We expected 20, we expected 10, the staff turnover is 50. We can find the question, we can find the answer, we can find the reasons behind that. Right. So then another one, even though it has been not mentioned here, actually the undergraduate, so the sub students employability, right, is higher than the government students, government university students employability. Then one of my student is doing the research. Why? Right? Why the SAP undergraduates are having high employability? What are the reasons? Right? So why what we are doing that kind of research? So what is the problem there? Actually, when it's come to the real world context, even we expect, right? So we are giving you the with the recognition degree. So it's a little bit private, but the government students, so they are some of the university students, they are having high probability of the getting the employment. So, but even we are questionable why this kind of so they have good the government students, so they have some kind of facilities, they have some kind of reputation, even though they had likewise the reputation and likewise. So why our students are getting more employed when it's come to the industry? Actually, we are really happy about that one and we are finding the reasons behind that one. So why it's a marketing point, right? So it's a marketing point. Therefore, actually my students is doing a research. So why the students, why the sub graduates are having high employability in the practical world or in the practical scenario, right? Or else in the industry, right? Likewise, so actually we are questionable. We have the problem. To do a research, the heart of research is your research problem, right? So that is why we are starting a problem. What the question in the Viva, the first question, normal question in the research Viva, why you are doing this kind of research? Why you are doing this kind of project? So what are the factors behind your research project? So therefore, the research problem is what the heart of the study, heart of the heart in their research project also. The heart of the project is what? The research problem. So that is based on your research problem, you are going to do a project. Otherwise, if you don't have the questions, we don't need to do a project. So if we see in the real world, what happened? So we have a lot of expenses and we have to uh, pay some loans and we have to bear our living cost and we have to eat more and eat very good manner and likewise. So those are some of expenses. So that is why we are doing a job. That is why we are actually get educated to do some good job, right? So why you are fulfilling a CA qualification? You want to be a chartered accountant, right? So you all are from the exemption batch now. So then you want to be a chartered accountant with the degree qualification. That means dual qualifications. So why? So you have expenses, you have some targets. So inner thing is the problem is there. To do any kind of things, the problem is there. Problem is get motivated us to reach for some target, right? So therefore, the research project also, heart of the project is problem, right? So thing is, you have to identify the difference between symptoms versus problem and then the causes for the problem. Example for it. Right. Okay, we'll discuss what do you mean by the okay. What do you mean by a symptom? Yes. So the thing is, normally the researchers, scholars, they identified the problem, not the problem, they identified the symptom as the problem. In real world also, we face that kind of scenarios. For an example, fever, right? So if we have get fevered, but think, so the mother will say, okay, so you are get fevered, you are not well, take this Panadol, likewise, right? But the once we have fevered for the 2 days, okay, we feel that okay, this is not a good symptom, so we have to we have to go to the doctor. Right. So then see, fever, the best example for the symptom is fever. Fever is not the actual state. What it is? It's a symptom. Okay. In the inner, you have some problem. Especially for the kidney issues. Then likewise, so the special thing or else the first step is we get fevered. What it is? A symptom. The problem is we may have some inner health unconditioned factors. We may have diseases within the inner in our body, right? So that means what? That is the problem. We may have the cancer. The first step is getting fever. So for the dengue, what happened? Fever, right? Likewise. So therefore, you have to identify as a scholar, the difference between symptom and the problem. Yes, what do you mean by a symptom? It's a signal, right? Observable signals or signs, indications that the problem or condition exists. Okay, you may have some inner disease. What it is? Fever indicators, fever sign us, fever give us a signal you are not going well, you have another issue, right? What it is? Symptom. Right. So then the problem, situation or issue that causes difficulties or challenges. So that is the real scenario. The gap is existing, right? It's we feel difficulties in the problem. So then reasons or else the causes. What are the reasons behind this problem? What are the causes for this one? So, for example, again, if I take this one, lung cancers, right? So you always not feel well, you always feeling sleepy, and I don't know, actually, I don't know the symptoms of the lung cancers. For example, just I'm taking. So then, we feel very bad health conditions always. We feel sleepy, and then we have fever always, and then if we are smelling it, or else if we are so the smells are coming from our inner body likewise, right? So what it is, it shows us you are not going well, you may have some issue, right? So then the problem is, real problem is, the person is having lung cancers, right? Reasons for the lung cancers. What may be the reasons? Smoking, right? Smoking is the cause for the lung cancer. So therefore, you need to, as a scholar, you need to identify the difference between symptom, problem, and causes for this problem, right? Okay, example. I feel you got to know about the symptoms, problem, and causes. Write down. So the what are the symptoms, problem, and causes for if a company is experiencing a low sales, right? If a company is experiencing low sales, what may be the symptoms for that one? So what is the actual problem there? And what may be the causes for these low sales? Okay, we'll give you 5 minutes. Do it, please. Yes. Okay. A company is experiencing low sales. So, what are the symptoms of this low sales? Yes. Anyone else? Symptoms of the experiencing low sales? Yes. We are having high customer complaints, right? High customer, if there's a company, if we have the high customer complaints, okay, we can get to know that we may be experiencing in the low sales, right? And then what else? What else? Symptoms of this low sales. Yes.
Product quality is not up to the standard, man.
Okay. Right. So we have realized that one of the batch is so it is having the low product quality. So then we can go to know that. So if we are not going for the quality standards, so definitely we may be having the low sales. Very good. What else? High returns, right? If we have the high returns, okay, we know that. So word of mouth, definitely. If we have the high return, that means though the expected quality or else expected levels are not matching with the customers level. So therefore, we are receiving low sales. What else? Low experiencing of the low sales. Right. So those are the symptoms. Okay, definitely future. We are having a low sales, right? Problems. What is the problem? We experience low sales. Company experience low sales. That is a problem we have. As the indicators, okay, no, we know that high customer complaints may be there and the high customer complaints may be there and then the high customer complaints and then high returns may be there. And so then the actually the yes, high returns and then customer complaints, and likewise what may be the causes for these things. So to experience low sales, what may be the causes? So as very correctly Puta, here we can identify the low product quality, right? It's maybe a symptom also, but the actual thing is cause may be the low product quality, right? We have sent the items with the low product quality. Accordingly, what happened? High return, high complaints are there. Based on that one, the problem is we experience low sales, right? There may be other causes also. Major competitor will be there, right? So the company, another company has introduced a substitute product, a complementary product. What happened? We experience low sales, right? Causes may be there, right? So therefore, you need to understand difference between problem, symptom, and the causes. In given example, we experience low sales, so that is our problem. What may be the symptoms? High returns, then customer complaints. So those are the factors that we can identify as we feel we receive the low sales, and then causes may be the low quality of our products, or else there may be a major competitor involved the new market, or else they have the competitors have been identified or have been introduced the complementary or a substitute product, and likewise, right? Next one. So in your research project, so what are the sources to identify your research problem, right? The first one is personal experience, right? So what do you mean by the personal experience? Yes. What do you mean by personal experience? For example, if I give you an example, in our case, let's take like this. So as a professional qualification body, so we feel, right? So we feel that so the students, A-level students or students who are in the market, educational industry, so they selected chartered qualification, CA qualification than the other professional qualification. So there is a high probability of getting to involve for the CA rather than for the other courses. For example, CMA, AAT and likewise. Right. So as a as employees working as and working at the CA. So it's my personal experience. We got to know that so the students are selecting more CA more students are getting selected for the CA, whereas the less number of students are getting selected for the CMA and other qualification. So I can do a research. So what are the factors or else why the students in the educational market, in educational industry, educational market are are selecting the CA qualification over the other professional qualification. So it's my personal experience. I personally experience more students are with the CA where other with compared to the other organization. It's personal experience, practical experience, right? Personal experience in the sense that nutshell the researcher had the problem regarding that particular scenario. Then next one, practical experience. Practically, an example again. So as an intern, let's take like that as an intern, right? So the particular intern entered to the MAs and or else entered the brandings. So they feel there within the apparel industry, within the selected company. So the high turnover is there, right? So what it is? A practical experience. So she or the intern can experience that the high turnover, practical experience, right? So then from the literature, literature it's not reading the similar papers, it's not the reading the similar papers, it's reading whatever the papers, journals, conference articles, research papers, abstracts, it may be extended abstracts, it may be books, it may be the other websites, it may be the other notes from the website, journals and likewise, right? Reading is the literature, right? So you read regarding some, you are interested on the, as you said, the sustainable performance, you are interested, you are interested on the big data, you read more and more regarding the big data, you read more and more regarding the working capital management, you read more and more regarding the corporate governance. So then once you read more and more, so you can identify that so there may be some gaps, so there may be some issues within this context, so you can do a research, you are questionable, you have the problem. Previous research, right? So we asked you to read the similar papers, right? So then you read the previous papers. For example, let's take like this, fintech or else financial literacy, right? I am interested in the financial literacy. So then financial literacy of the accountant of SME, and then the performance of the organizational performance. So what is the impact of financial literacy of the company's accountant or as the SME's accountant on the performance of the organization, right? The business performance of the organization. So this is the research topic that just created. So then So if I'm interested in that area, I read more and more regarding the financial literacy. So there are some researchers who have tested financial literacy for the not for the SMEs. I'm going to do this research for the SME. I'm interested for the SMEs, but the previous studies has not been done for the SMEs. They have done for the other medium organizations, other listed companies, other private organizations, other government organizations, and likewise. But they had the previous researchers has not been tested for the SMEs. So then, so I'm questionable. So even though the previous researchers find out some various for conclusion based on these several organizations, so they have not done the test for the SMEs. So then what I can do? I'm questionable on what happened, the accountants financial literacy, if the accountant is having the financial literacy, so then what happened to the business performance? So I can do a research. Existing theories. I hope you all have identified regarding the research theory. There are a lot of research theory. TAM model may be there, and the agency theory may be there, stakeholder theory may be there, stewardship theory may be there, contingency theory may be there, organizational theories may be there. Likewise, there are a lot of existing theories. Right. So when you are reading regarding a theory, you feel that the particular theory has not identified important concepts that that should be included to the research theory, but they have not tested it previously. They have not identified that component to the existing theory. So what it is, it create a problematic scenarios to us. So what happened? For example, agency theory, right? Agency theory, in the sense, it describes the relationship between, especially the agents and owners. That means they are describing it, describing about the shareholders, directors, and managers, relationship between these three, right? So even though it is more complicated and more essential to identify the let's take for example, sustainability component should be included to this research, to this theory, agency theory. Within this, so the relationship between shareholders, managers, and directors may be changed because of the sustainability, right? Sustainability practices within the organization. Right? Even though the sustainability practices should be included, the theory has not been identified that component. Right? So what we can do? We are problematic on that scenario. So accordingly, we are directed towards the research. A best example, resource-based theory. Right? Resource-based theory explain about the so to adapt a particular, or else to use a resource to the organization, it should generate a competitive advantage towards the organization. I don't know whether it is clear to you. Resource-based theory explain, as a company, if we are adapting a, if we are taking a resource, right? So the particular resource should create a competitive advantage toward the company. For example, human resource. It's a resource, no, human resource, to be a selected to select a best employee, or else to hire the qualified chartered accountant. The particular chartered accountant should create a competitive advantage. He should prepare the financial statements rather than the other chartered accountants within the industry companies, with the according to the ethics and rules of the CA, right? So therefore, that means competitive advantage. But even though the resource-based theory identified that kind of relationship, later on, later, the researchers, scholars identified that within this relationship, the natural context, right? So natural environment also impacting for this relationship between the competitive advantage and the selection, or else get to adapting the resource, or else establishing the resource, selecting the resource. So therefore what happened, the new theory came out, it is called as a natural based resource theory. What they have identified, the previous one resource based theory and the next one natural based resource theory. The risk gap is identified, the environmental concept gap is identified by the researchers, right? That means existing theory. Again a very good example, TAM model, technology acceptance model. So that is very much familiar with those who are doing the project with the technology concepts. So then TAM model, later on, TAM model developed towards the UTOUT model, right? You search those things if you are interested, UTOUT model, right? So then consumer feedback, right? Consumer feedback. What are the consumer feedback? What do you mean by the consumer feedback? We keep the we in the CA also, that's for you. So for the CA also, for the SAP also, we have keep the a separate box to identify the student complaints, right? If you have the complaints, what you can do, you can put a short note to the particular box. So then what happened, there is another person who securely who securely take that feedbacks and give the take your notes and getting the feedbacks toward us or else whatever the persons, right? So now we feel that, for example, let's let's take from the bank sector, right? If I get from the CA context, it may be a huge issue, right? Otherwise I maybe get the example from our end, it may be issue, right? Okay, the company banking sector, let's take the people bank, that people's bank, right? So the how about the customer service, is it excellent? Excellent customer service is provided by which bank? I don't know. That is up to you. That is up to your perspective. Anyway, for the moment, I will take the People's Bank. They are having the low customer service. Ne? So then what happened? The particular customer wait for the 2 hours to discuss about the personal loan. What he has done? He is going out from the bank. He put a note to the complaint box. So your customer service is excellent. Is that a scenario? No, your customer service very bad. Right. So now what happened at the end of the month, at the end of the week, or else at the end of the year, at the end of the day, the particular person opened the box. The person see the note. Your bank customer service is very low, right? So then what the banking research unit can do, so they can do a research why the customer, why our customers are feel so bad, right? So why our company employees can't give the high excellency services to the customers, what it is based on the consumer feedback. Performance improvement activities, where do we can include the performance improvement activities? Apparel industries or else within the HR sector, performance improvement activities, right? So if the performance of the companies, or else if the performance, it may be company, it may be the employees low, the particular research unit or else the respective unit identify that why this is like this, why the performance is low. So then they can include the performance improvement activity. And social issues, poverty issues, there are I know I have a personal contacts with the ministry. So the foreign ministry's research unit. So there is a one, my colleagues is there. She is telling that her research is different from our research. She is doing a social research, especially social research regarding the foreign direct investment, and likewise. Uh, when she is going to do a research, she so when we are traveling, she told about me lot of several social issues, right? So when she feels, when she is going to do a collect the data, right? Lot of issues are there. Economic context, even when it's come to our context, Puta, we are doing the research with the organizational context, working capital management, the profitability, and then fintech innovations, corporate governance, audit practices, internal audit qualities there, right? Likewise, big data analysis may be there, AI tools may be there, right? Financial literacy may be there. Likewise, and the investment decisions, dividend policy, capital structure decisions, and likewise. So we are doing the research with the managerial perspective. So actually, so we have the questionable areas, but when it's come to the social context, there are severe issues in Sri Lanka also, right? So what it is poverty. So I don't know whether it is fair to tell you with you. So we have the enough capabilities and we have some enough money to live, but there are some students, so there are some, not the specialist students, there are some families within the rural areas, they even don't have the uh, their expense, or else they don't have the power to take a one meal for the day. That likewise the social issue may be there, high inflation is there, unemployment is very high. Yeah, so even I tell the high employability for the SAB, so the undergraduates employability, graduates employability are high because those are having CA professional qualifications. Some of the undergraduates, some of the sub undergraduates complete the CA, and then so they are going with the dual qualification. In your context, definitely you will complete the CA, and so you get the both dual qualification. So that therefore we have the recognition. But some universities, my junior batches are there, my university undergraduates may be there, undergraduates are there, so they have completed the degree, so they don't have the some internship even, right? Some of my colleagues who done their degrees within the visual performance at the University of Colombo, right? So they don't have a job, so they have degree but they don't have the job. Social issues, unemployment, yeah. Actually those are the scenarios we need to do a research, right? If you can do a project for that kind of scenario, actually that is also very good and worth, right? So those are the some of the scenarios you may created the problems, right? Next one. Right. Okay. Process of formulating the research problem. Now we know about the problem. Now we are going to identify the process of the formulating a problem. Process. What do you mean by process? To be a process, how many steps are there? Especially process input, process, output. So that is a normal scenario. No? Okay, so we need to transform, read and narrow down a broader management problem into a feasible topic for research. That means a larger problem is there, right? Broad problem is there. Now what you need to do, you need to convert that, or you need to transfer that problem to your end. How you can do that one? Read, narrow down. Read, narrow down. You can read another source, narrow down. You read another newspaper, narrow down. So we can't test the a large problem. What you need to do, what you have done in your project, you have identified the working capital management issues with the profitability. Now you have simplified that problem to a organization. What it is, you have narrowed down it. When you are selecting that area or as organization, you have to read what? You have to investigate, right? So the previous research is done with the apparel industry, manufacturing industry, listed companies. So then I can do this research for the SMEs. Likewise. So, okay, tell me, when you are forming a feasible research topic, research project topic, so what are the main components normally you included to the topic? So there are three components, no? Yes. Three components. No idea. Your dependent variable should be there. Your independent variable should be included to the research topic, and your tested company should be included the topic, right? So anyway, so that is the formal formation of the problem, formation of the research topic. So when you are selecting this topic, when you are forming this topic, the problem is the base, right? Based on your problem, you need to define the problem. You need to define the research topic. Otherwise, your problem is something else and your topic is something else. Right. So therefore, when you are reading the papers, when you are doing the literature review, you read and you narrow down the problem, and what you need to do, you need to convert it to the feasible research topic, right? Specific, precise, clear. Your problem should be specific, precise, and clear. To the point, it should be there, right? No any so other description. So when we are writing special thing, when we are writing the research problem, don't include such as like a huge paragraph. The problem is the one paragraph. No, right? So it should be very precise and very specific. How you can do the specific and precise? You can include the area that you are going to test, right? Okay, preliminary information gathering will help us to make the necessary transformation. There are 3 steps. How you can convert the broad management problem to the research problem, right? The first step, you read and identify the broader management problem and then the preliminary research and the definition of the research problem. Okay, we'll get to the practical example. Right. So when you are writing this problem, you have to use 2 factors, 2 headings, or else 2 things should be described within your problem. First one, the contextual factors, and second one is the literature, right? Contextual factors and the literature review. Right, okay. So the research problem should help the researcher to find the answer to the question such as what, right? So why? What is the problem actually, and so why does the problem exist? Is the problem is important? What are the benefit of solving this problem, right? Normally, if you can form the research problem by identifying these 4 things, so that will be an excellent problem anyway, right? So normally in the project context, actually, you should have a real world practical example. Organizational problem should be there. So that is a management perspective. You can't write that your company, ABC company, ABC company is getting low performance, low profitability this year, last year, before the last year. And so then ABC are suffering from the huge losses in the future also. Likewise, we are going to accordingly the ABC is questionable on this one. You can't write likewise, right? So when you are writing a problem, which whatever the problem it may, even though it may be the dissertation or a project problem, you should have to follow some steps, right? Your problem is based on definitely the gaps, research gaps, right? Anyway, the contextual factors when you are writing, when you are elaborating the gaps, plus the when you are elaborating the gaps, you need to take the highlight of the contextual factors. That means the organizational and its environment, definitely your dependent variable, right? The dependent variable description, the dependent variable flow with the literature should be discussed. And later on, as a one-off factor affecting for your dependent variable, the one independent or as more independent variables, again, you need to describe it with the again literature. Right. For an example, okay, we'll take the working capital management example. We'll continue that one, right? Okay. No, we'll take another example. We'll give the chance to another student. Eh? Okay. Senarath. Senarath ne puta. 63.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Yes. What is your research topic?
It is the relationship between board attributes and CSR.
CSR.
Yes.
What do you mean by CSR?
The corporate social responsibility, that means the companies that how they give their value to the society.
Corporate social responsibility, how they contribute to the society. Ne? So what are the three factors they are describing under the corporate social responsibility?
No much idea, madam.
Okay. The dependent variable is the corporate social responsibility. It may be the corporate social responsibility disclosure, and likewise you have to develop those things. So then corporate social responsibility and the board attributes. What do you mean by board attributes?
The factors like the size of the board, the gender diversity, the female representation on the board.
What else?
CEO chair duality.
Board independence,
Board independence, yeah.
diversities and etc. Yes. So tell me, what is the background of the study? Which basic concept provide you the background to this study? Corporate governance. Any idea? Others? Madhushan. Isuru. 15C. Yes? Any idea? We'll convert the 63 to 36 Tatsarani. Tatsarani. Exemption 36. Tatsarani. No idea regarding board diversity and etc. What is the base? Corporate governance. Right. Okay. Anyway, we'll come to this discussion. Right. Senaratne putta.
Yes, madam. Senaratna.
Senaratna. Right. Okay. What is your good name?
Janit.
Okay. Janit. Right. So when the Janit started this problem, so definitely he is not having that kind of problem. We'll create a problem, right? We'll create a problem to him, right? So its research is actually board attributes or as board factors and how these board composition, board attributes will impact to the corporate, CSR, that means corporate social responsibility disclosures or as corporate responsibility practices of the organization. Right. So if the woman composition increases, what happened to this? CSR. Is it decrease? Again, why CSR? There may be. Right. So he is going to test it. Right. Okay. Gender diversity there, the board size also there. If the board is having a lot of members, what happened to CSR practices and likewise. The thing is, definitely, what is this dependent variable? Senarath, can you please note your dependent variable?
Dependent means the CSR factor.
Yes. Exactly, very good. It's CSR. CSR discloses or a CSR activities or a CSR performance. Right. So then the question is, when he is starting or else when he is doing this doing this analysis, when he is reading, let's assume he is doing this research for the consumer industry, so energy industry. Right. So then when he is reading the corporate governance articles, and when he, I don't know whether what is his position, or else let's assume he is a CFO of the let's take manufacturing industry, and he is a CFO of the ACL cables, right? Okay, actually he is having the another high position than CFO. For the moment we'll take it as a CFO. ඇති නේද පුතා position එක? I don't know whether you are working or else no. Right? Okay. Right. CFO of ACL cable, Janit. Right. So as a CFO, right? So as a CFO, what they need to do? They need to disclose this corporate social responsibility practices. They need to do a lot of corporate social practices. But during the past years, so within 2020 to 2024, within these 4 years, their CSR practices is going to be down, right? So they are decreasing level step by step. So the ACL cable CSR practices are going down, right? So accordingly, they are having high complaints from their annual report, and there may be some standard issues. So those are what symptoms, right? Customer complaints may be there, and the quality assurance complaints may be there, other high competition may be there, rivals also, and this as well as competitors also complaining us, high customer complaints, and the employees also very. So they also from the CSR also we need to contribute from the employees also, no? So then see the employees feel very bad, so they are the high turnover. So those are the symptoms of these CSR disclosure practices, right? So these symptoms indicate what? Okay, the company's CSR disclosure, CSR practices are going down, right? Going down. Now, as a scholar, right? As a scholar, Janit, right? The CFO of the company is questionable on what happened to these CSR practices. Why this CSR practices is going down with compared to the competitors, right? So the ACL cable, Kalani cable, so they have the high CSR projects, whereas the ACLs are having low projects, and he is now feeling so bad regarding the CSR as a CFO. Right. So once he again investigating the annual reports, and once he reading the articles regarding this manufacturing industry, once he revealing the newspaper articles from the conference, he get to know that so there may be a reasons for behind these low disclosures, low practices. One of the factor based on the literature review plus the practical context is the corporate governance issues, especially what it is board composition. During these 5 years, especially our board has been changed. Previous year 10, now it's 20, right? Previous year it's 10 lady representation, now it become 15 lady representation. The 2020 it was a 2 lady representation, and the composition is 8. Sorry, composition is 10. Again, the composition change, board independent, the high independent directors are there. Likewise, the composition has been changed of this board. Now, the Janit, the scholar CFO, is questionable on whether this board diversity or else the board attributes is impacting for the corporate corporate social responsibility activities. He is questionable. Is there a relationship? Is there an impact of which one? The board attributes to the corporate social responsibility activities or as discloses. Right. So now when he is writing this research, what he need to do? He need to elaborate the dependent variable. Normally you are starting with the dependent variable. You need to create a question for the dependent variable. We are questionable on the corporate social responsibility. Why this is happen like this? Why this is going to be reduced? You are questionable on which one? Your dependent variable. What you are highlighting? The organizational environment. Right, with the support of literature, and then you are taking the dependent variable. Okay, one of the factor out of the factors that has been affected for the social responsibilities, one is what? The corporate board attributes. Now you are describing the independent variable with the literature plus the environmental context, and write down combining these two together with the literature review. What you can do, you can write down the research problem. Therefore you have to identify very clearly, right, when you are writing your research, right, it's an unanswered question and it unresolved problem, right, it's a problem which has been not resolved so far, which has not been answered so far. We are questionable, right, which reflect the lack of existing research in the place, right, lack of the interest, lack of the researchers has been done for this kind of area, this kind of problems. That is why the problem is there. Otherwise, if the scholars done the research for that particular problem, so there are no problem. No, they have find out the symptoms, and they have find out the problem, and they have find the causes. Accordingly, the scholars are giving the information. These are the causes for this kind of scenario. Okay, you resolve as a practitioners. Right. Okay, research gap also existing when there is already fair deal with the existing research, but where the finding of the study is full of different directions and making it difficult to the drawn firm conclusion. Right. Okay, now we'll identify practical. I hope it's clear. When you are writing your problem, what you need to do? You need to take the literature review, plus you need to highlight your practical context, practical issue. Right. Okay, we'll identify how this theoretical context as well as how this practical context will be implemented to your problem in a rational or else researchable manner with the identification of research gaps, right? Identification of research gaps. Okay, we'll have 5 minutes break. Shall we have a 5 minutes break? You need to have your dinner, no? Okay, we'll have 10 minutes break. It's 1947. That means 7:47 will come at 19:57. That means 10 minutes, 7:57. Okay. Okay, Putta, shall we start again? Okay, it's 58. We'll start. Okay, right. So 16 students, ne? That means 15 students, no? Anyway, we'll start. We're back to the lesson. So we are going to which one? The discussion of the research gap, right? So the gap previously we have identified. So in what kind of scenarios we are creating a gap if the actual is not similar to the expected. So see here what happened. So there is actual is like this, but the expectation is here. Well, that means gap is there. Space is there, whereas the call it's scientifically a gap. Next one. Right. So there are a lot of gaps. Out of these lot of gaps, we have identified how many gaps? 7 gaps, right? Evidence gap, knowledge gap, and then practical knowledge conflict gap, empirical gap, and then the theoretical gap, methodological gap, and the population gap. Right. So evidence gap, first one, the evidence gap. Right. That means there is inconsistencies in previous research findings. Evidence are less. Accordingly, what happened? Evidence gap is there. Right. For example, I will explain that one with example. Yes. Working capital management and the profitability. Right. Isuri 2022 in her research, she has explained that working capital management and the financial performance is negatively related. Right. In 2021, in the research of Jani regarding the working capital management and financial performance or else profitability, in his research, he has explained that there is a positive relationship in the positive relationship between working capital management and the financial performance. Again, 2022, right? Tatsarani and Janit. Again, in that research, they have explained that so there is no impact of the performance, no impact of the working capital management on the financial performance of the company. Right. So see here that there are 3 studies. Those 3 studies are having 3 different conclusions. What happened? So the previous findings are consistent or else inconsistent. The inconsistency is there. right? Previous findings are having inconsistencies, right? Inconsistencies. In that kind of research, there is a essentiality do a research to confirm actually what kind of research is what kind of relationship between the working capital management and the financial performance. In your research, you can do a research based on that one. What is the gap? Evidence gap. No evidences as well as the inconsistency in the previous research findings. Next one, knowledge gap, right? So that means actually the knowledge is lack of that field. Understanding of that knowledge is very low of the practitioners or else maybe the scholars. There are less studies. Knowledge, for example, big data. Right, so for the big data or else AI, for the machine learning, we know about small concepts regarding those things because why? Those are emerging concepts, right? In Sri Lankan context, that is up to the Sri Lankan context, but in the international context, AI, machine learning, AI, power generation tools, big data analysis, those are widely respected concepts. But in the Sri Lankan context, those are rarely researched on those topics. Right. So we actually know about the big data analysis. Big data, what do you mean by the big data analysis and what are the techniques and what are the tools of this big data analysis? Do we have a research theories or a special depth analysis regarding the big data analysis? No. Right. So in that kind of scenario, to explore the knowledge, right, to explore the knowledge of the future generation or else regarding regarding the big data analysis, what you can do, you can do a research regarding the big data analysis. For the moment, we know a big data analysis technique, big data practices, and then big data techniques. And likewise, so we can do a research regarding the big data performance indicators, big data KPIs. What it is, we are contributing to the knowledge. For the moment, we don't have understanding, we don't have a knowledge regarding the big data capability, big data KPIs. What we are going to do, we are going to initiate a research to find out big data KPIs. Likewise, the knowledge is if the actual field lack of the understanding of these theories regarding or else the knowledge of the particular area, what is there? The knowledge gap, right? Practical knowledge conflict gap, that means professional behavior, right? Professional behavior is deviated from the practice, right? For example, we always, as chartered accountant, future chartered accountants, we always, all of the CA, always emphasizing you the ethics, right? Always code of ethics is there, right? Even though the code of ethics is there, as CA, normally is the CA, those are professionals, so those are adhere to the CA ethics and governance. But for the moment, we'll take the as example, we'll take that even though the they become the chartered accountant, they are not adhere to the ethics and governance principles. They are not following the code of ethics. What it is there? We practically or else what happened, the professional behavior, we expect the professional behavior according to the code of ethics, but what happened, the practice, it is not going to be happen. What is there? Practical knowledge conflict is there. Accordingly, it create a gap. For example, forensic education, right? Forensic accounting education. What do you mean by the forensic accounting? Capturing the fraud and errors, right? Capture nutshell, it's capturing the fraud and errors, right? So what happened? The accountant's role regarding the capturing fraud and errors, right? So the practically, practically what says, forensic accountant should capable to identify or else to catch this fraud and errors when they are revealing the financial statement and likewise, right? So that is the professional behavior. So what happened? So even though the professional behavior is there, right? Some of the forensic accounting persons, so they are not comply with the forensic accounting practices. Sometimes they may be received the bribery and corruptions and likewise. So therefore, even though the practical professional behavior should be there, so they are not adhere. The practical is deviated from the professional behavior. Normally, that is not the happening case. For example, I just took it up. Right. Empirical gap. To elaborate that scenario, I took that one. Empirical gap. What do you mean by empirical gap? Lot of research are there, so they have all of the researchers imply, okay, this should be empirical tested, this should be empirical tested, this should be empirical tested. Future researchers can be tested this empirically, and like us. Lot of studies have been done, have been ended up with that word, but the empirical it has not been tested so far. Again, a good example, right? Financial literacy and the SME performance. Okay, we'll take another example. Financial literacy, we took it now. Right. From the accounting perspective, we'll take another example from the students' name. Yes. Anyone who wish to tell about the research topic? $52. Saib. Am I pronunciation right? Saib. 52. Okay, Sandaruni. 14. Sandaruni. Sandaruan. Yes. What is
The
your
research
research topic?
the impact of corporate governance on financial performance of Lancaster field.
The impact of corporate governance on the financial performance of the particular company. Right? We'll check whether it is relevant for our example. Okay. Empirical gap. The impact of corporate governance practices has been tested for the manufacturing company. The impact of corporate governance with the corporate governance to the profitability has been tested for the manufacturing companies, has been tested for the customer companies, consumer behavior, consumer industry companies, and the food and beverage companies, and then to on to the food and beverage and tobacco companies, and then the banking sector and the finance sector. All of the out of these 20 sectors, 19 segments are taken to identify the relationship between corporate governance and the financial performance. But out of these 20, there is a one more. What it is? Let's take for an example the hotel and industry. Hotel and its name as the hospitality industry, not hotel, hospitality industry, as I remember. So then hospitality industry. For the hospitality industry, for Kandalama hotel, it's environmental friendly hotel. No? So for the Kandalama, so the corporate governance practices as well as the relationship between corporate governance practices and the impact of its on the profitability has not been tested empirically for the Kandalama hotel so far. What it is? Empirical gap. It has not been tested for the area. So accordingly, you can create what? Empirical gap, which is very relevant to develop your studies for your level, right? Evidence gap is test can be taken. Empirical gap can be taken. Another one. Theoretical gap. Theoretically, there is a gap. For example, let's take again the previous example, resource-based theory. What happened? There are some miscomponents in the resource-based theory. And then what happened? Natural-based resource theory has been introduced. Why? What is the lagging component there? environmental component. So then you can do a research to fill that gap. What kind of gap? That is theoretical gap. They exist the gaps within the theories, or else the lack part of these theories that can be addressed through the theoretical gaps. Methodological gap, right? Methodological gap. What do you mean by methodological gap? So okay, another research topic. We'll come with Dinushika, 58. Dinushika, 58. Zero, 003. Taranga or Taranga. What is your research topic, Taranga? Taranga or Dinushika? Mm-hmm. 007 Piris. I'm not asking question from you. Don't worry. Just I need the just topic from you. I have a lot of topics. I can take my example. I just want to take example from your end. That is what we are doing now. No? Yes. Putta. 007 Piris.
Impact of sustainable reporting on firm performance.
Sustainable reporting on firm performance. Right. Okay. So what you can do when you are developing your research problem, you can tell like this. Right? Yes. Sustainable practices name.
Sustainability reporting.
Sustainability reporting. Okay. Write it down. Sustainability reporting and then the firm performance.
On firm performance. Yes,
okay,
right.
good. Firm performance. Right. So when it's come to your research problem, you can tell like this. Right. So there are a lot of research or as ISURI 2022, she has done research with the independent variable sustainable reporting and the dependent variable firm performance with the objective of likewise, and their findings were, so they have tested this research in a quantitative way, right? In a quantitative way with the secondary data. Right. Next one, next line again, right? Again, Janit, 2023, in his research, he has tested sustainable reporting and firm financial performance in this particular manufacturing industry in a quantitative way, but with the primary data. Right? Again, Jayasundar, right? Jayasundara 2019, Jayasundara, Piris, Dinushika 2000 and Dinushika 2019, in their research, they have taken the sustainable reporting with the financial performance. They have tested it with the quantitative, not the quantitative way, qualitative way, in the qualitative approach. Right? Qualitative approach. Again, so while considering these several studies, several literature review articles, several findings and several methodological ways, so this research elaborate the sustainable reporting and firm financial performance, or else this study is going to identify the or else this study is going to investigate the relationship between sustainable reporting and firm financial performance with the quantitative way with the primary data for as a panel data discussion, whereas it identified a methodological gap. It fills the methodological gap. What it identified? The first study done with the quantitative study with the secondary data. Second same research study has been done with the quantitative way but the primary data. Right? Third study, same study has been tested for the qualitative way. Now, you're feeling it so far. So far, your topic has not been tested with the quantitative way, primary data as a as a panel discussion. Right? Accordingly, I am doing my research to address that methodological gap. You are changing the methodological. You are changing the methodology of the study. Last one. Population gap. Population gap. What do you mean by population gap? Right. Again, example. Right. This study is going to target for another population which has not been tested so far with the literature review, as per the literature review. Right. Again, example. Okay. Another example. Let's take Roshan Bandar. Roshan. Yes. Roshan, tell me your research topic. Yes. Vijay Singh, 28. Research topic, please.
The effect of working capital management on profitability of the national water supply and drain the board.
Okay, the impact of working capital management on the profitability of National Water Board.
Teacher. Yes, teacher.
Okay, National Water Board, right? So then, what you can do, when you are writing your research problem, you can write, okay, the previous studies has been done for the same research topic, working capital management and the firm financial performance, or as the profitability has been tested for the manufacturing industry, has been tested for the garment in apparel industry, food and beverage industry, banking industry, and likewise, even though it has been studied for this, it has been tested for this kind of population. In my research, in this study, it identified the same research topic to the water board, whereas the population has not been tested so far. You are going to change what? Your unit of analysis there. Right, unit of analysis in the sense from whom you are going to collect the data. Now what happened? Unit of base population is based on the unit of analysis. Now in your study you are going to change the unit of analysis, right? A population gap, right? Population gap, or else you are going to target a new new population, whereas the unit of analysis is consist. Right. So these are the research gaps that you can write or else elaborate when you are writing the problem. I have taken the practical example also. That means the practical example with your research topic, and when I'm explaining that, so I have taken the in-text citation also, whereas I lectured you in the literature review. That is how you need to write. Especially when you're writing the problem, citations should be there. That means that is the literature review. Otherwise, you can't research. Otherwise, you can't research plus you can't develop the problem. To develop the problem, literature should be there. Right, so they have done this like this, they have done with that, they have done this population, they have tested it for this point of population, they have knowledge, they have created the knowledge throughout this research, they have tested it and they have proved it the positive relationship. That means those are coming from which one? Those are coming as a literature with the in-text citation. So therefore, writing the research problem should be based on two scenarios: managerial aspects plus the theoretical aspects. So when you are writing those things, you take those gaps, right? Out of these gaps, the normal thing that you can take evidence gap. Our previous studies are contradictory. Therefore, we can do a research. First one. Second one, the empirical gap. That has been suggested by the previous researchers but not tested, right? The methodological gap. In this research we are changing the methodology again. Population in this research has been tested several times for these kind of areas, but this research is going to be tested for the another new population, the population gap, right? Accordingly, evidence gap, empirical gap, methodological and the population gap can be taken for your level. That is your smartness, how to write the research problem, not cunning, smartness, right? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay. Accordingly, we can identify the goal of the first step of the research. That means introduction chapter. You need to write down the research problem. Once you write down this background of the problem, you have to write the research problem as a problem statement, right? So, for example, working capital management and the profitability, you describe. Right, you start with the dependent and you created a problem to the dependent, and then you describe the one of the factor that is affecting for the dependent is independent, and then you stop it with the gaps. Lastly, once you write down this paragraph, the problem statement should be there, right? For the profitability, what is the impact of, right? What is the impact of working capital management practices on profitability should be there. That is a problem statement that should be highlighted, that should not highlight, that should be bold. And then if you can italic, that is the best way. Italic and bold, that means you need to separately disclose this research project problem. The paragraph, in the sense, those are the description, those are the background of the research, but the problem statement should be there at the end of this problem chapter, right? So when you are writing the problem chapter or as problem paragraph, problem section, you need to provide the reference, you need to refer the report and other reputed information sources, detailed outline conditions, that means concerns the situation, and then so the personal experience. So those are the things that we have so far highlighted. Okay, I have gave you the activity, but you do it as a homework. We'll go to the next one. Okay. Problem statement, againly, problem statement should be a concise, concentrate summary of the research problem as I described already. It should be unambiguous, specific and focused, right? So you normally start with the research problem, what, right? Is, do or does, right? WH formats are the things that we are, WH format plus is, are, do, does. Those are the formats that we can use to write the problem, plus research questions also. For your quantitative research, we are taking what? Right? Normally, what is the platform, what is the WH word that we are taking for the quantitative study? Don't use how, don't use why, right? Don't use who, why. So those are the terms, WH terms that we are taking for the qualitative research. Right. So the problem statement should be relevant if the meaningful from the managerial perspective, that means academic perspective both. That means literature plus managerial aspect. Okay. So the managerial aspects and the literature aspect is described here. Right. Now, next step. Right. So what is the next step? We are going to problem is the broad area. Now we are going to divide this problem to the steps or else sub areas, whereas it called as the research questions. Research questions. Right. Research questions are crucial. So the because they guide your literature search and then your decisions about the research design, the type of data you will collect from whom, and your data analysis, your final writing up. They will stop from you going in unnecessary directions as well as your readers' clear sense what is your research about. Right. The thing is, your problem is the basic area. You divide your problem into the sub areas where you can reach throughout that question ultimately to the problem. By resolving these questions, you will be ultimately able to find out the answers for your research problem. Right. First thing, okay, we'll take an example. Can I kindly know the working capital management practices and the firm financial performance question from anyone else who are doing the working capital management research problem? Okay. Yasin. Yasin, what is your research topic? Yasin, what is your research topic?
Excuse me.
Yes, what is your research topic? No research topic?
Madam, sorry, he's having some signal issues. Just message me.
Ah, okay. Let's take in Pinnaduva. Yes.
The relationship between financial performance and the relationship between financial performance and share price of Access Engineering PLC.
Share prices, volatility. No, just share prices.
Yes.
What of share price? Share prices in the sense, okay, you develop that one. So that is up to you. Normally the financial performance and share price volatility, right? If the financial performance is increasing, what happened to have share price? share prices going down or going up. So that means that has been identified the word of volatility. No, okay. So that is up to you. Okay, Buddha. Financial performance. Let's take the share prices volatility. So where we are now, what is your research? What are your research questions? What are your research questions? Questions? No questions? Okay, we'll take the main problem. What is the impact of share price? What is the impact of financial performance on share price volatility? Right, so this can be tested in the particular. Let's take Sampath Bank Sri Lanka share price financial performance and the share price volatility of Sampath Bank Sri Lanka. So the thing is, you can divide this main problem into the questions, right? So what may be the questions? To identify the financial practices, right? To identify the disclosure of the financial practices, financial performance of the Sampath Bank Sri Lanka. You can identify the disclosure levels, right? So there are some index to identify those things, right? So then you can identify under the financial performance, right? So there are financial performance can be tested throughout the several indicators, several measurements. So that one of the factor that is affecting for the financial, or is one of the measurement that can be tested for the financial performance is ROA. How ROA how ROA is impacting for the share price volatility. Another one, right? Then the question, so what is the impact of ROA, return on assets, on share price volatility of Sampath Bank? Next one, another area that you can test for the financial performance is, let's take net profit, net margin, net profit, right? How net price volatility be net profit, not net price, net profit, right? So then how the net profit is impacting for the share price volatility in Sampath Bank of Sri Lanka, right? So the overall, what you can contribute to the problem, what it is, what is the impact of financial performance of the share price volatility? You have divided that one, that particular question, particular problem, research problem into the three segments. First one, research, the identify the financial practices or else financial performance indicators of the company of the Sampath Bank. So what are they used to make? What are the indicators that they use to highlight the financial performance of the Sampath Bank? So once you selected the out of those factors, the major indicators to measure the financial performance are ROA and the net profit. So then you tested how this ROA and ROA and the net profit is impacting for the share price volatility of the Sampath Bank Sri Lanka. What you have done, the problem is divided to the question. Problem is divided to the question. Right. So then when you are developing the research questions, you can develop the several type of questions. So why does Y happen under the circumstances and A and B? Predicting an outcome. You can develop a question to predict an outcome. What happened if if the exchange, what happened to A and B? Predicting, right? Explaining the cause and consequences of the phenomena, right? How this firm financial performance is impacting for the firm value. Financial performance is impacting the firm value. What cause and consequence phenomena? evaluating a phenomena, right? Does Y exhibit the benefit that is claimed to have? You need to evaluate scenario. Describe phenomena. Describe it. To describe a situation, you can use that one. What is Y like or what form Y assume, right? Developing a good practice. How can we improve Y? How we can develop, how we can reduce the employee turnover, right? How we can increase the adaptation of sustainable practices. How? Why? Does? Is? Again does, right? Again empowerment, right? How can we enhance the life of those we research, right? So how we can reduce this unemployability, how we can develop this, how we can reduce the poverty, how, right? Likewise. So these are the several type of questions that you can elaborate in your project, right? So once you develop the research questions, based on the research question, if you are questionable on something, now you should have a objective to find solution, find the answers to these questions, right? Whereas we are calling it as a research objectives. If you have 4 questions, you should have 4 aims, 4 objectives to identify the answers for that questions, right? The purpose or its objective of the study thus explain why this study is being done, right? You have the problem, then you divided it to questions. Now you should have what? The objective, where I am going. What is the direction of my research, right? The statement of research objective should be brief, not but none less than the communicate clearly the focus on the project. Again, the objective should be very precise, right? It should be clear to the point, right? Questions, objectives, and the problem. Where to the point. Well, what are no any such as I previously described, no any like, no any hellies, likewise, right? Lot of description, 2, 3 rules, 5 rules, you describe it. No, it should be to the point. What should be there for the problem, and what you are going to test is this the impact, and then your dependent and independent should be there, and your area should be there. Question also the same thing, what you are going to do, right? WH format, questionable format should be there, and then what you are going to do is should be there with the dependent independent, where is the industry should be there. Objectives also the same thing. Same question is converted to the objective format. How you can start the objective? Definitely it should started with the to, right? It should started with the to, the word to, and the second term you need to take the action verb, right? Here you have given some action verbs. Find out, right? To study, to investigate, to establish, to evaluate, to assess, right? To assess. So then to explore, to determine, to investigate, likewise. So the next term is that with the two action verb should be there. So then you have to incorporate to investigate the relationship, the impact, the coursework impact, the difference, right? To evaluate the difference between financial performance of healthcare industries and financial performance of manufacturing industry, right? To evaluate dependent independent industry. The same research question is converted to the research objective, right? So those are the terms that we need to describe today. So that nutshell what we have identified, the problem should be there, the base problem should be developed with the specially managerial perspectives past the literature review. When you are describing those things, when you are including the managerial perspectives and the literature review, you need to elaborate the gaps. That is how you can write down the research problem. You need to provide the background. At the end of the problem description, you need to state the problem statement where is there that is very precise and specific and unambiguous. It should be there, the component should be there. Once you identified the research problem, you need to divide the problem into a specific steps or as areas. So whereas we are calling it as a research questions, once you develop the questions with the relevant to the questions, you need to develop the research objectives, right? Ultimately, what happened? You achieve the objectives, you fill the research, you find the answer for research question. Ultimately, what happened? You are finding the solution for the problem. It can be taken from like this. You initially from the first step, from the beginning, you find the problem, divided into the question, and you develop the problem. You develop the research objectives. Lastly, once you identified, once you collected data, once you analyze, once you are interpreting the results, you find out you achieve the objective. That means you find out the answers for the questions. Ultimately, deal with them to resolve your research problem. That is the reverse side. From the beginning, it's the left to right, right? From the end, it's right to left, right? Right. Any question from this area? Questions, problems, and objectives.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes, Tata.
Madam, the part you have explained, which in our research project, which chapter this need to be included in the introduction part?
Yes, the introduction part. As I previously explained you, introduction chapter consists how many sections? Especially 1, 2, 3, 4. Not 4, especially 3. I will explain another one also. First one, background. Right? You need to write down the background. So then you need to write down the research problem. Background completed and then shifted to the problem. And then based on the problem, research questions, and that 2.1 background, sorry, 1.1 background, 1.2 its problem, 1.3 its questions, 1.4 it is objectives, and say so then you can write down the limitation of the study, scope of the study as 1.5, and then 1.6 it's the flow of the the flow of the next research project. That means second chapter describe the literature review, third chapter describe about the methodology, fourth chapter is regarding the discussions and results, and final recommendation and conclusion. So that is flow of the stuff, flow of your report. So that as a 4.6. 4.1 background, sorry, 1.4 background, 1.2 problem, 1.3 question, 1.4 objectives. Hereinafter, that is up to the research report content. Normally 1.5 is regarding the limitation scope of the study, and 1.6 it's regarding the flow of or else chapter organization. It named as a chapter organization. I hope the content is given to you. Objectives.
We have been given one structure, madam. In the introduction part, there are 8 subparts like introduction and the background of the project, then the company overview, problem statement, then project questions and objectives.
Very good.
Scope of the project, then significance of the study, then lastly chapter summary.
Chapter summary, summary. Okay, right. So that is your proposal. That is the project content. Okay, that is okay. This part is relevant for the chapter 1.
Okay, madam. That means the initially which you have stated should be included in the background of the project, right?
No, 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 no. So I'm discussing about the problem. right? When you are writing the research background, so that is a separate case. The background in the sense you need to describe about your variable volatility. That means for the let's take the corporate governance, right? So you have to write down the corporate, not the definition. Corporate governance is the principles that has been developed by the chartered accountants to obey for the when they are doing the finance, when they are preparing the financial statement. And likewise, the in your word corporate governance should be included, right? So then you describe how the corporate governance practices has been initiated in 1959. It has been tested by oral stat. It has been identified by the Professor Ajwat, and likewise, and then in 1960, it has been developed with the objectives of likewise. You need to provide the background regarding the corporate governance, right? For example, the particular person who is doing the board diversity and the financial performance, so then the background is provided by the corporate governance. You need to identify the background of your study. The base is provided by the corporate governance. So then you need to, in the chapter 1, you need to identify the background of that study. The corporate governance is what? So it has been evaluated like this. It has a history like this, right? So then you step by step, once you have identified the broader perspective, broad area which is relevant for your study, then you moving towards the description of your dependent, right? So what do you mean by the in the financial performance? So then you describe what financial performance is like this. It's an indicator, and describe about simply regarding the background of the financial performance. So then again you move toward the description of the firm board diversity or else board attribute. Board is like this. It consisting normally general principle is to consist the 5 to 9%, and then accordingly the board attributes are like this. Board attributes are the gender diversity, firm size, board independence, woman consistency or as gender diversity, and likewise you describe about your dependent variable. Once you describe these things, then another chapter is there to describe your organization. So those are the background of the study, right? So then you move towards the identification of which one? Identification of your company. That is a 1.2 as I remember. Sorry, 1.1, 1.2 background, 1.3 the description regarding the organization. Now, then only I have explained, then after you have, I explained the research problem. Right, 1.4, when you are starting the 1.4, you start as I described. Right, questionable to which one? Dependent. So then questionable to which one? Your independent. So then develop with the research gaps and then develop the research problem statement, move towards the objective, move towards the questions, and then move towards the objectives. If you have 4 questions, definitely there should be 4 objectives, but normally for your level, you only have 1 problem. Don't develop 2 more problems, right? Just 1 problem. Based on problem, you develop the questions in line with the questions. In line with the questions, you need to develop the objectives. Okay?
Okay, madam, got it.
I just described about the research problem, how to write the research problem, not regarding the background and other things.
So that means, madam, which you have now explained should be in line with the project, the problem statement and the project questions and objectives. That's all.
Yes, that's correct. Totally correct. Project problem, project questions, project objectives. Those 3 parts only described here.
Okay, thank you.
But normally for your advice that I gave the writing the background part. That can be tested in, that can be the normal format is like that. When you are developing the dissertations, you take that part. That is the way normally we are developing the dissertations also. Right. Questions? Very good. Thank you very much for asking that questions.